Hello again, fellow coders. Welcome back to our journey of mastering React and Next.js. I'm Themis from Codesurfing, and in today's video we'll dive into the world of component state management. In our last episode, we covered the fundamentals of Next.js, including basic routing and styling, and set up an example project. Let's use that as a starting point. In the world of React, understanding and managing component state is crucial. Why? Well, let's start by illustrating why a simple variable isn't enough to change the UI of a component. Here, we have a basic React component. We'll attempt to use a regular JavaScript variable to change the content of a paragraph when a button is clicked. Let's see what happens when we click the button. As you can see, even though the variable changes, it doesn't automatically update the UI. This is where component state comes in. Component state represents the dynamic data that the component can maintain and modify. It allows our component to respond to user interactions and changes over time. To create an initialized component state, we use the useState hook. Begin by importing it into your component. Once you've done that, replace the variable with the following line of code. UseState is essentially a function that returns an array of two things and takes one argument. First, it provides a variable, counter in this case, that holds the current state value. Second, it gives us a function setCounter to change the state of that variable. To set the starting or default value of that state, we use the argument inside the hook. Let's use the counter variable to display the data inside it and setCounter to change them. Great! Now that we understand the importance of component state and how to set it up, let's explore the versatility of component state in React. We can store various types of variables in state, such as numbers, strings, arrays, objects, or even arrays of objects. For instance, consider storing an array in state. Let's say we are building a to-do application. We can use state to manage the list of tasks. Let's make a simple to-do list application. Create a new page called ToDo-List and let's start from scratch. I will add some simple styling to center the content. Create a simple form with an input and a submit button. Notice how we use the state with the value and onChange props to keep track of the input's value changes. When the user clicks on the button, we want to add the text to our to-do list state and clear the value of our text field if all goes well. We will use the form's onSubmit event, but remember to use prevent default so that your page does not reload after you submit the form. A note here is that when using arrays or objects for state, like we do in our to-do list, you should always create a new array or object when setting the state. Otherwise, React will have issues when mutating the original. So in order to add the new to-do item in our to-do list, we should spread the old array and add an item in the new one. If we console log our to-do list, we can see items being added to it. Notice how every character we write in the input field, we see another console log. This is how useState works. It triggers a re-render of the component. This simply means that the component function reruns. To display the items, simply use a map on the to-do list and add some JSX elements inside to display each item. Good job! You have now managed to make a small application. Unfortunately, there are key features missing from it, like being able to mark an item as complete or being able to remove an item. To do just that, we need to first convert our array of strings into an array of objects. This is necessary in order to add a isComplete boolean flag to each item. So let's reorganize the structure a little bit and create three functions. One function for adding a to-do item, another one for marking it as complete, and the last one for deleting it. Use the first function in your form onSubmit functionality and make sure you change it to work with the new structure of our to-do list. Here, to make our life easier, we should create a unique ID for each to-do item. It would be appropriate to use a UUID here, but because it's such a small array, we could also use a random number. It's up to you. This unique ID will help React identify each unique item in the list. We will add it to avoid some bugs for now, but this is an advanced subject discussed in another video. Fix your map to display the items correctly and add the key prop with the item ID inside. Let's check now our app still works. Now create another React component for each to-do item with 3 props: the to-do item, the onComplete, and onDelete function. We'll use the last two to pass in the corresponding functions. I will avoid any styling choices for now and create a list item with some text and a button. When clicking on the text, it will mark it as done, and when clicking on the button, it will remove the item. When a to-do item is marked as done, I will use style components to add some text decoration for a strike-through line on the new item. We can pass a prop to the style component, and since that prop will only be used for styling, I will prefix it with a $sign to avoid adding it to the DOM. Add the necessary functionality for the last two functions left and pass them to the to-do items component. Let's start with the mark as done. There are two ways to use the setState function. We have been using only the first one until now for convenience, which is to pass the new state directly as the first argument. The second one is to pass a function that returns the new state as the first argument. This ensures that when a set state is clicked multiple times very fast, the function will provide the correct state for that point in time. Then we will use map over the entire array and only change the element with the ID that matches the ID specified. Similarly, with the delete functionality, we will use a function inside our set state and filter over the state in order to remove only the item that matches the provided ID. Congratulations! You should now have a working to-do list. All that is left now is to be creative and style this application however you want. Here is my attempt with the help of style component. Thank you for joining me in this tutorial. Remember, component state and user input go hand in hand when creating dynamic applications. Breaking down your UI into smaller components can lead to organized and scalable code. Your questions and feedback are essential to me, so please share your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for our next episode on server interaction and HTTP request in React. Until next time, stay curious and keep coding.